President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Good evening, and welcome to Today in History. I'm Matt Datillo. Today is March 1st, 2010. Well, as you can hear, our kitty Jenny is with me this evening. Hopefully she won't be causing too much of a problem. I'm basically 4 days behind on the 500 for 5 campaign due to a stomach virus that hit me early Saturday morning. So those of you who have played American football might be familiar with the term two-a-days, and hopefully some weekends between now and May 16th, I'll be able to put out maybe 2 podcasts in a day instead of 1. Tax season is upon us, and if you'd like, I would like you to consider donating some money to the Matt's Today in History podcast fund, which is always available if you visit mattstodayinhistory.com and click on the donation link on the left-hand side of the page. If you're interested in ordering a DVD that includes all past episodes of the podcast, you use the same donation link. The cost is $20 in the United States. That is the lower 48 states of the United States, and $25 everywhere else. So without any further ado, let's get on to the history. Today in 1932, Charles and Anne Lindbergh's 20-month-old son, Charles Lindbergh III, was kidnapped from the family's home in Hopewell, New Jersey. The ensuing months became a strange tale of con men, mob figures, ransom notes, and other details more numerous than can be covered in one short podcast. Because of this event, a German immigrant would go to the electric chair, kidnapping would become a federal crime in the United States, and a nation would become enthralled in an event so heavily reported that writer H.L. Mencken dubbed it, quote, the biggest story since the resurrection. The Lindbergh baby, as the couple's son came to be known, went missing on the evening of March 1st, when the family's nanny found the child missing at 10 p.m. Charles Lindbergh immediately searched the house and the surrounding grounds, which led to the discovery of a ladder on the ground below the nursery's second-floor window. He also discovered a letter on the windowsill, but did not open it in the hopes that it might contain fingerprints of the kidnapper. The local police soon arrived, and were followed by the New Jersey State Police. It was at this early hour that the investigation began to break down. None of the property was marked off, meaning the policemen and reporters were soon walking in areas that potentially contained clues of the child's disappearance. No fingerprint evidence was found on the ransom envelope. When it was opened, a poorly written note demanded $50,000 and said that instructions for delivery would be sent in 4 to 5 days. The note also demanded that the police not become involved. Lindbergh's concern for his son's safety led him to make many rash decisions and follow many leads that would, without telling the police or later the FBI. His advisors initially told him that the mafia had been involved in the kidnapping, so he contacted 2 speakeasy owners who were reputed to have mob ties. They turned out to also be working for a New York newspaper who bought a copy of the ransom note from them. The distinct markings on the note were soon common knowledge, meaning that anyone now had the ability to pose as the kidnapper. The Lindberghs eventually came to trust a man named John Condon, who became a go-between for between the family and the kidnappers. On April 1st, Condon received a letter claiming that the kidnappers were ready to receive their payment, but that the ransom was now $70,000 since the police were involved. The ransom was delivered to a cemetery by Condon and Lindbergh, who were given a note claiming that the child was being held aboard a boat named the Nellie in Martha's Vineyard. No such boat existed. The Lindberghs had been fooled. 6 weeks later, the body of a toddler was found in the woods about 5 miles from the Lindbergh home. It was immediately identified by the Lindberghs and the child's nanny as indeed being that of Charles Lindbergh III. However, the body was badly decomposed, and even the child's physician later said that there was no way he could have identified the child beyond a certainty. With their child supposedly dead, The Lindbergh's only hope was to catch his killer. They hoped to do this by using the ransom money, which was composed of marked bills and gold certificates. Their serial numbers had been sent around to any public place in the area where they might turn up. On September 18, 1934, an alert gas station attendant found one of the bills mixed in with others that a customer had used to buy gas. He wrote down the license plate number of the car and called the police. This soon led to the arrest of a German immigrant, Bruno Hauptmann. A search of Hauptmann's home turned up $15,000 of the ransom money. As with the Lindbergh home 2 years earlier, the house was not secured, and reporters roamed the place freely. Hauptmann was arrested and charged with kidnapping and murder. The trial was held in Flemington, New Jersey, a small town that was soon overrun with reporters and the curious. Unable to afford an attorney, a British newspaper hired one for Hauptmann, a man named Edward J. Riley. People who knew him called him Death House Riley, because so many of his clients ended up on death row. Between his incompetent defense team and public pressure, Hauptmann never stood a chance. Despite a lack of certain proof, Hauptmann was convicted of the crimes and was sentenced to death. His appeals process netted the same outcome, except for the fact that the governor of New Jersey at that time actually intervened on the man's behalf, to no avail. Bruno Hauptmann was executed on April 3, 1936. The Lindbergh family donated their New Jersey estate to charity and moved to Europe to escape the media spotlight. Soon after, and probably because of the Lindbergh kidnapping, the United States soon made kidnapping a federal crime. It remains so to this day. There have been several people in history who have come forward actually claiming to be the Lindbergh's kidnapped and supposedly murdered child. One of the men is still alive, and if you listen to late-night talk shows, sometimes you'll hear him interviewed. His story is somewhat convincing, but there's very little doubt in my mind that the body that was found in New Jersey in 1932 was indeed that of the Lindbergh baby. One note about the last podcast we did about Admiral Husband Kimmel, I have been in contact with Tom Kimmel, the Admiral's grandson, who has a website devoted to the memory of his grandfather and devoted to clearing his name. We will be doing a part 2 of that podcast. However, I have not had the time to fully devote to that second part, which is going to require a lot of reading on my part. So that's probably going to be a weekend podcast, hopefully this weekend. That's it for this evening. If you'd like to get in touch with me, please feel free to do so. My email address is mattstodayinhistory@gmail.com. You'll find a transcript of this and previous episodes of this podcast at mattstodayinhistory.com, along with the aforementioned donation link. You'll also find me on Facebook. Just do a search for Matt Dattilo. That's MattDattilo. Thank you very much for staying subscribed, and have a good evening. We'll talk again tomorrow.